How are you?
It's nice to know that you like it. It's
I
nice
do,
to
but
get that.
I need like a hug after seeing it or something. So I'll come over after. We'll end the interview with a hug.
Your tie as well. That's
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
socks.
Oh yeah, look.
Looks so cool.
My grandmother said if you respect someone, you gotta dress to show them.
Ah,
So
that's
there you
very
go.
nice.
So if I ever come in
That's
shorts
true.
and flip-flops and a t-shirt, I'm watching this movie and it's such a beautiful lesson about kind of the dangers of growing up and losing your imagination and sort of forgetting how to play. But as actors, you get to play all the time, whether you're opposite Captain America or you're playing with lightsabers or you're with Winnie the Pooh. Does being an actor sort of keep you from having to grow up?
Oh.
I think it is very much to do with it's very similar to playing. Of course it is. You're when you're kids, you're playing with each other and you're inventing, or at least when I was a kid, you're inventing scenarios. You know, yeah, you do this and you do that, and then you say this and I'm going to say that. And that's sort of just, we do a very grown-up version of that. Well, it costs a lot more money. You know what I mean? But it is similar.
You have to get up really early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But using your imagination and you're creating from your imagination and your experience something that's realistic and believable for the audience.
Yeah, it's very childlike. It's very much this whole experience, I think, has been quite liberating in how sweet it is to go back to that time of childhood where there was no concept of time really in the way that we have it now. I mean, you just play with the people that you love and you just hang out, and that in itself is enough, that life is just enough as it is.
To your point about how sweet it was, during the 2 hours of the movie last night, I was in heaven because I existed in a world in which Winnie the Pooh was real and was around. I stepped outside and the real world sucks. Stepped outside the theater and it's not as fun as this. The day after you wrap, is life just a little less magical?
Oh.
No, because of the experience of having done it lives with you. And
Yeah,
it
so
was,
you take that magic with you.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It was lovely to go to the woods and act with Winnie the Pooh and our lovely sets, and it was great.
And to go to the real place, Ashdown Forest. And then I did a photo shoot in the house that A.A. Milne lived in when he wrote the books and where Christopher Robin was brought up. And so and it feels quite magical being there. So I think having that connection to the reality of it was also that helps you bring the magic into the reality.
I love that. I love this idea of sort of learning life lessons from the toys that you had as a child, them showing up when you're an adult. If the toys that you had as a child were to walk through that door right now and teach you a life lesson, who would walk through that door?
I had a little wind-up Evel Knievel that came out that
Yes!
he wound him up and he wheelied away from the little windy-up thing.
Oh, wow,
So I
okay.
think he'd wheelie in and he'd say, make sure you ride motorcycles when you grow up, and I would say, Evel, I do! I did it!
I do!
Yeah.
Love that! So when we get Ewan McGregor, the movie, that's what we're gonna see.
I'm just going to wind me up and I'll come in on my little wheelier.
Love that!
Yeah.
Oh, me. Oh, man. I think probably trolls who they would come in now and go, see, I told you, you'll look just like us first thing in the morning when you hit your 30s. Just hair straight up, like little bloated little face like a chipmunk. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's the first thing that came into my head.
What about Jane?
Janie, oh my little Janie. I remembered that my most beloved toy, I've left her in a suitcase in my mum's cupboard. So I think as a result of this press tour, I will now go home and resurrect Janie.
That's the worst Toy Story sequel ever.
It's a
But
sad
wait till
shame.
you hear the description of her. She's got no hair, and she's missing a leg or an
She's
arm.
missing a leg, and she's a bit grotty.
She's gonna be pissed.
She's gonna be
She's been
pissed.
waiting a long time for a bit of love. TLC.
Yeah, it's time. It's
Oh,
time to
guys,
bring
speaking
out Janie.
of little love, can I come in for
Come on,
a little
Yes,
hugger?
come in for some
Bring it in for the
love.
real thing. Oh, I love you guys. Thank
right,
you so
take
much
care.
for
See you.
saying that.
Nice.
Absolutely,
Such a
beautiful
pleasure.
film.
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good to see you, sir. They packed the theater full of kids last night, and it was wonderful hearing all of the laughter from the children. But I know a ton of adults that are going nuts about this movie, that sort of feeling that cat's in the cradle, that nostalgia feeling. Are you aware of like the amount of adults that want to see this film?
Yeah, I mean, I made it partly for kids and myself, and the reason behind it is my daughter one day, we were on a trip together, and she's watching on an iPad like Winnie the Pooh cartoon, and she turns to me and said, Dad, can you finally a movie for me? I can't watch a movie, they're all too dark. And she's 6 years old, and I'm looking at the cartoon and I said, why don't we do Pooh? And I said to me, I said, okay, if I'm doing Pooh, I'm not doing a movie just for kids. She always drags me to these kids movies, which I just want to escape from. So I said, I'm making a movie for her, for me, and my mom, and we can all watch it together. And I feel all like these sort of classic Disney movies that I remember growing up always always had this four-quadrant kind of feel that I can just, these are family movies I can enjoy, everybody should enjoy.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you've done both films about Peter Pan and Pooh at this point, because both of them have very interesting backstories about where the stories came from. At any point did you start kind of thinking about your Finding Neverland days when you were making this?
Absolutely. I mean, I always been looking since Finding Neverland to find a magic realism story again, and myself, you know, when I was thinking about Pooh, I grew up in Switzerland. My parents had no TV. I always had to, and they went around a lot, so I had a lot of stuffed animals in my house, which I interacted with, and one was Pooh, and they were sort of this blanket of comfort, and I felt like, you know, when I was working with Pooh,
which is such a crazy thing just to say. I just shot with him in the next suite over, so I know what you mean.
Yeah, so it's very bizarre when you start working with Pooh, and you add Jim Cummings' voice to it. And Jim Cummings' voice suddenly gave me the goosebumps when I've had him first in the recording studio. And this nostalgia and a blanket of comfort. I said, I'm home. And it's the bizarrest feeling. And I think a lot of people had that feeling when they first saw the teaser. The same thing where they suddenly saw Pooh and Jim Cummings' voice.
He's right, because you see it and then you go, oh, and then Jim speaks and you go, oh my God, like exactly. I'm home. It's fine. Speaking of Finding Neverland, the final sequence of that film is sort of one of my go-to cry movies. I cannot make it through that final sequence without just weep, not even a cute single tear, like an ugly, gasping cry. What is your go-to cry scene? What is the scene that just makes you just die?
the go-to cry scene. I cry very quickly.
As I get older, so do I. I know what you mean.
It doesn't take much from me. So I would say I'm just thinking in my go-to cry movie. I wouldn't, because I can't quote my own movie. So I'm just like.
Dude, if I were you,
because I can't get through Finding Neverland myself and start crying. But I'm just thinking here. There's, I think Terms of Endearment.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
Terms of Endearment.
Well done.
Yes,
worth it. Worth the wait.
Yes, worth the wait.
This movie is beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thanks for enjoying.
It meant
so
a lot to me.
Yes. No, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Please let the world know.
Oh, I promise you I will. Pooh, it's so good to see you. What is it like being reunited with all the pals of the 100 Acre Wood?
Well, the cast is quite wonderful. Ewan let me have a bigger trailer, you see, and I thought that was ever so nice. Because, his was bigger? Bother.
It looked like a blast on screen. How much fun did you have making this movie?
Well, I was allowed to do my own stunts, and sometimes even on purpose. Oh, before we keep going, you wouldn't happen to have any honey, would you?
Sorry, I don't have any on me. I'll see if I can get some. But tell me, has Christopher Robin changed much since the last time you saw him?
Well, as I recall, he's much taller than I remember. And, I've probably grown too. I wonder if he'll even recognize me.
Igor, my friend, so good to see you. I've got to ask, what drew you to this project?
Well, it's not like I'm that busy anyway.
Well, I understand that. You got a lot of free time, but did you have much fun making this movie at all?
Define fun.
Okay, let's move on a little bit. What do you think will surprise audiences about this film?
Well, Tigger likes to surprise everyone. Very troublesome habit.
Tigger, I was just talking about you with Eeyore. What drew you to this project?
Well, it's like the role was written for me. I mean, stripes and all, which is why I never read the script. Why mess with perfection?
Piglet, it's been great talking with the entire cast, but one thing I want to ask everyone, and I want to ask you too, what drew you to this project?
Yes, once Pooh said he was doing it, I said, I'm in. Also, I was too afraid to say no.